This is Breakfast Daily, and today is the 31st of October 2023, meaning it is the last day of our October month. And I think that we have heavily, dealt with breast cancer in this pink month of October. As it is the last day, it is also very important that we wrap it up, with a conversation on breast cancer. If you've not had your screening yet, well, please do so today, or after today, still have the chance to do that. Now, helping us, talk about myths about breast cancer, all the kinds of stories that you hear about breast cancer, that cares people get breast cancer, that men do not get breast cancer. I mean, all kinds of stuff. One question that I really would love to ask doctor is the fact that if you have your breast sucked, by whoever, would you get breast cancer? Would you be protected from breast cancer? Would God have mercy on you that you are doing nature a favor and so you get breast cancer? Our doctor here today is Dr. Bright Asamoah, Chief Radiologist and Chief Medical Officer, Synlab Ghana. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you, Fema.
Right, so the myths, the first one I would like to know is my last question. If you have your breast being sucked all the time, does it help in any way?
Fema, that should have been your last question.
No, babies and adults, no, I'm very interested in that,
I got a lot of texts from men going like, that question, when it comes, you better answer it well.
So I'm doing the Lord's work this morning. So really, what is that case?
Right, so breast sucking is, the major preserve for babies. So during breastfeeding, right, when mothers breastfeed their babies, it actually helps prevent breast cancer.
Okay.
And that's because it keeps the female hormones away from the mother for a longer period of time. So obviously the men seeing that, just probably extrapolated to the fact that if men also suck, they're helping.
Men who are drinking beer and chewing kebab and all that when they come.
Exactly, so yes. So men would also want to have, to be contributing to preventing breast cancer. But unfortunately, sucking of breast by men when the woman is not breastfeeding doesn't help. Okay, But then the good side to it is that most cancers or little lumps in the breast have been discovered by their husbands during the processes of having fun with the breast. So nonetheless, we still encourage men to, enjoy the breast as and when it comes and make sure that they actually feel for other things to be able to find something. Did you hear
the way he sighed?
Anyway.
We shall do the Lord's work.
So it might not directly, prevent it, but in a way, you are helping at least discover the labs. So it's still,
there is a part to play.
There's a certain therefore in the equation. But really, what are some of the myths that you hear about breast cancer? What are some of the strangest stuff that you hear people talk or people say or questions people ask about breast cancer?
Yeah. So you'd find some women worried about big breasts. So some women think that having big breasts actually increases their risk of developing breast cancer.
Really?
And you would think that, yes, if you have a lot of breast tissue, then the risk of developing breast cancer would be there. But actually, that's a myth. It's not true. Okay. Because breast size does not increase risk or determine your chances of getting breast cancer. But the thing is, if you do have big breasts, it becomes difficult when you examine your breasts to find a lump.
Yeah.
Okay, so unlike somebody with smaller breasts, as soon as they examine, they're able to tell that, oh, this is something new.
We don't have room for anything to hide anywhere.
Exactly, So with the big breast, the risk of missing out during your self-breast examination is quite high.
Right.
So we just advise that ladies with big breasts would regularly have proper screening using the equipment that are found in hospitals or diagnostic centers to be able to pick up any lump that is probably hiding anywhere. So it's just that the increased chance of missing out on a lump that could be cancerous, but not the fact that big breasts actually increase the risk of developing breast cancer.
Is every lump in the breast cancer?
No, and that's a really good question, because as soon as a woman sees or feels a lump in her breast, she begins to freak out. But the truth is, we have 10% of lumps that a woman would have. 10% of them are likely to be breast cancer. That means 90% of the time it's not actually breast cancer. But nonetheless, if you do have a lump in your breast that is a new lump, that is persistent, that is associated with changes in the skin of the breast, then you'd want to have these checked out and make sure that this is probably not breast cancer. I mean, once there's the probability, you don't want to take chances.
So can a young girl get breast cancer?
Interesting, yeah. You know, at first we thought that breast cancer was reserved to the elderly people, our grandmothers, you know, and all that. But it's actually been realized that recently we're finding breast cancer quite prevalent in young women. So I've had a colleague doctor who died of breast cancer in her 20s,
Wow.
and a nurse who died of breast cancer in her 30s, and a close relation of mine dying of breast cancer in her 40s.
Wow.
So age, although breast cancer increases with increasing age, we're realizing that a lot of cases of breast cancer is actually happening in the younger
But a teenager can't get breast cancer.
It's rare, but it's
Okay.
not out of the ordinary. It's rare, but it's not something that is impossible not to happen.
Right.
So yeah.
In recent times, we've been talking about men and breast cancer. What is it? What would make a man get breast cancer?
You know, men do get breast cancer, and unfortunately, when men do get breast cancer, there's a 25% chance that the breast cancer would kill them.
Really?
Yes, that's the unfortunate, and I'll tell you the reason why. But statistics-wise, as compared to women, 1 in 8 women are always likely to get breast cancer. But in men, we have 1 in 1,000. Okay? Now, because men actually are unaware, most men are unaware of breast cancer. In case they feel a lump in their breast, they're definitely not thinking that it's breast
Yeah,
cancer.
they
All
ignore.
right? So they delay in seeking treatment. And this delay in seeking treatment results in, you know, poor prognosis of any lump that is found to be cancerous. But women at least know that, okay, if I find a lump in my breast, it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
They'll seek investigations. If it's cancer, the treatment is usually early. So that's why you find that 25% more times men would die from breast cancer.
Recently, there was a whole social media, you know, hurrah among the should I say martial arts world. You know, when they saw this Israel Adesanya, he developed what they call is it gynecomastia? Gynecomastia.
Yeah.
What's that? What causes that?
Yeah.
It's like like he started developing like it looked like breast.
Yeah.
What causes
So
that?
gynecomastia is just more like a swelling of the tissue under the nipple.
Okay.
All right, and it happens in teenage boys when they're growing. So usually when they hit puberty, then you realize they develop some, you know, breast swelling, as
Okay.
it were.
Okay.
So indeed, there are also some individuals who their medications and all those things can lead to that, because once the medications probably has a hormonal influence, then it can cause the tissue under the breast to actually swell up and look like the person has nipples or stuff like that. But indeed, you know, breast cancer in men actually is a hard lump that forms under the nipple or within the areola, the black place around the nipple. So in case a man feels something in that region, he would want to check it out.
check it out,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if a man has breast cancer, would he also go through mastectomy?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, yeah. You know, once it's breast cancer, you go through the whole 360 that a woman would go through. You know, taking out the lump, testing it. If it's found to be cancerous, they go back to take as much of the tissue around the area that the lump is discovered. Would go through chemotherapy, the radiotherapy and everything, because you don't want to take chances.
Yeah.
You actually have to do everything to rid the breast of the cells, and if the cells have spread, to ensure that you also get those spread out cancers. You know, so it's the whole 360 the woman goes through.
You know, so what about those who put their money, their phones, all kinds of things, you know, their pockets are not enough, their bags are not enough, so their bras also have a
So
role
the
to play in
extra
savings and, you know, keeping their money and other stuff safe.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the implications of this?
Yeah,
Can it cause breast cancer?
So, you know,
You know the way we handle our money, very
exactly,
dirty.
you know. So the dirt all just increases the risk of an infection, you know.
Okay.
So you have, the breast has pores, so any dirt can actually enter the pores and result in an infection. So you'd find that they'll have quite a florid infection on the breast, you know. They can have a whole lot of patches on the breast and all those things, but it doesn't necessarily result in breast cancer. But then phones, you know, on the other hand, you have it releasing signals and waves and all that. But then again, there's no link between the phone signals or the phone waves and the causation of breast cancer. So at this point, researchers haven't found a link between the phone being close to the breast and breast cancer. But nonetheless, we're not encouraging it. I mean, at least get a bigger bag, put your phone in, rather than stick it in the bra.
If you can, put your breast in the bag as well.
What about nutrition? I mean, are there things that you can eat that are likely to cause, breast cancer or increase your risk?
Yeah, increase your risk of breast cancer. So there's nothing particular that increases your risk, okay? But then eating foods that sort of like cause you to gain weight, such that you become obese, you become overweight, increase your risk of developing breast cancer.
Okay.
Now, the reason is that being overweight means that your body, or being obese or overweight, means that your body is producing a lot more estrogen, and the presence of estrogen in your body over a long period of time does increase your risk of developing breast cancer. So it's your dieting, how you take care of what you eat, making sure that it's not getting you to put on excessive weight, because this excessive weight does translate over time to increase your risk of developing breast cancer. Yeah.
Wow.
What about deodorants? So sometimes the people say that, and armpits, if you use deodorants and things like that, it can cause infections, boils and things, which can then lead to breast cancer. Is there any truth in that?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, if this were true, then, I mean, that would cause chaos. I mean, imagine if you're in Trotros, the smell and all that stuff, your offices, because everybody would stop using deodorants. But no, there's been no, link found between all the various kinds of deodorants and the causation of breast cancer. Indeed, some people use deodorants, and as a result, they develop a lot of boils under the armpits. That's because some deodorants actually block the pores, that the sweat and everything is supposed to come out. Okay. And then the stagnancy of those pores result in infection and then the development of boils. But then, antiperspirants or deodorants causing breast cancer has not been linked to, haven't been linked together. So it's out of the question.
All these are not causing breast cancer.
Right.
So what is causing breast cancer?
Interesting. Now, unfortunately, the exact cause of breast cancer is not known. Okay. All we know is that breast cancer is caused by cells within the breast behaving abnormally. And in the abnormal behavior, they're just multiplying uncontrollably, and over time they result in a mass that we call a tumor. So it's that tumor that you actually feel when you examine your breasts. And if this tumor is not investigated and taken out soon, it begins to spread to other parts of the body. So what triggers that, we actually don't know. But then what we do know is that there are risk factors, things that increase your chances of developing breast cancer. So the first thing is that if you're a woman, then there's the increased risk. Again, if you are increasing in age, there's an increased risk. Then if somebody in your family has had breast cancer before, first-degree relatives such as your mother, your sister, or your daughter, that means you also had increased risk of developing breast cancer. If you had breast cancer in the past, or any other cancer, you do have a risk of developing breast cancer. So that just these nitty-gritty things that increase your risk. Again, there are genetic factors. So for instance, we have a gene deletion or gene mutation called BRCA1 and BRCA2. Okay. So if you have this gene, you'd realize that a lot of people females in your family are getting breast cancer. And not just your immediate family, but like generations, 2 or 3 generations. And that means there's a likelihood of this gene running through the family. And that gene being present in your DNA increases your risk of developing breast cancer by 5 times more at risk. So it's something that if you realize that a lot of people have had breast cancer in your family, you'd want to have this checked out. And again, the usual suspects, alcohol, smoking, they all increase the risk of developing breast cancer. And something also very interesting, that if you have your menopause late, or you start having your menses early, or you don't have children, or you start having children late, all this increases your risk of.
So what should we do?
Start early.
Because some of these things you have no control over.
You have no control. And the truth is that you can have 0 of these risk factors and you still develop breast cancer. And you can have all of these risk factors and you don't develop breast cancer.
So pray.
Just take care of yourself, screen very often so it can be picked up early. Because early breast cancer, or like breast cancer detected early, can be cured. But if you wait till you start experiencing any signs and symptoms, and you do go, most often it's quite late.
Wow. If I feel a pain, has that got anything to do with breast cancer?
Interestingly, pain is actually not one of the symptoms of breast cancer.
Okay.
Women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, we only have about 1% of them who actually complained of pain. Okay. So it's to say that the majority of breast cancer is painless. Okay, you won't feel anything.
Wow.
So unless you look for it, you won't know it's there.
That's serious.
All right. So I've had somebody I know who died of breast cancer. She had no idea she had cancer until she saw somebody actually die of breast cancer who was her age, and she went to check and she found a lump. And they go check the lump, and the lump is already stage 4. In other words, it has already spread. And the prognosis of that is very poor, because then you're just buying time. Doing the chemo, doing this, doing that, all just in a bit to buy time. So it's to say that women, if you wait to feel something, you actually, risking, dying actually from breast cancer.
So in a year, how often do you have to go for screening?
So in a year, at least you can go once.
Okay.
All right. But then if you have, for instance, the gene that puts you at risk of developing breast cancer, then you'd want to do it more often, probably 6 months, 3 months, and all that. If you've had breast cancer before and if taken it out, you'd want to be checking quite regularly. Right. And if you do have lumps that the doctors are not too sure if this could be cancerous, they'll probably tell you that, look, come every 6 months, let's check and see if the lump is misbehaving some way, somewhat. So it all depends. That's what you decide with your doctor, your risks, and again, otherwise just check yearly and make it a routine thing to keep checking. Yeah.
Wow. How do people get in touch with you?
Okay, so we're at SynLab. All you have to do is just either find us on all our social media pages, SynLab Ghana, and you can visit us. Otherwise, we're located in South Legon.
Okay.
Where's South Legon?
South Legon, it's interesting.
Because the Legon people, you are confusing us. North, south, east, west. Where is South Legon?
So
I think Legon is the only place in Accra that has north, south, east, and west.
West, south, southeast. Where is South Legon?
So South Legon is located, I'll use 3 places. So the National Identification Authority, in that enclave behind Talo Ghana, also in that enclave, and then Fiesta Real. So just triangulate it.
Find your way,
area.
around that place.
Yeah.
Right.
But the statistics are alarming. In Ghana, we have about 4,000 people being diagnosed annually. Wow. But this, I'm sure, it's even low. All right, and we have 50%. That means 1 in 2 women diagnosed with breast cancer dying from breast cancer.
That's so
and
good.
the pure thing is that a lot of them report late, about 70% report in the advanced stage of the cancer.
But quickly before we go, if you are able to detect early, what really does it take? Is it very expensive to treat? Is it just medicine or therapy or surgery?
You go through the processes of, chemotherapy. Sometimes they would probably do the surgery. If it's big, they would probably do chemotherapy, radiotherapy to shrink it. Then they take out the surgery, then they continue with that. Otherwise, it's something they'll just take out. You do your chemotherapy, you do your radiotherapy for a period of time, all in the bid to kill all the cancer cells that you have. And like you said, if it's detected early, yes, your chances of cure are quite good. Otherwise, I mean, you just sort of like trying to keep the cancer at bay to prolong your life.
Dr. Bright,
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
We've been speaking with Dr. Bright Asamoah. He is a Chief Radiologist and Chief Medical Officer at SynLab Ghana.